So reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Volume 6, Uniting Two Worlds, chapter entitled At Home in India. In its material form, anger, krodha, is described in Bhagavad Gita as occurring when one's lust, karma, cannot be fully satisfied. A true sadhu, therefore, because he does not have lusty desires, does not become possessed by anger. The Vaishnava poet Narottam Das Thakur, however, declares that anger may be used in serving Krishna. Narottam Das gives the example of Hanuman, the eternal servant of Lord Ram, who displayed his great anger in fighting against Ravan and the other demoniac enemies of the Lord. Rupa Goswami also wrote in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that a devotee should not tolerate blasphemy to Krishna or to the Vaishnavas, and that his response might justifiably be transcendental anger. Even Lord Krishna incited the anger of the non-violent Arjuna, inducing him to fight, and that fighting was transcendental, whereas Arjuna's reluctance to fight was material. Among sentimentalists and impersonalists, however, the image persists that a sadhu should never show anger. When at a large Pandal festival in Delhi, Srila Prabhupada has shown anger toward a man who spoke against Krishna, many in the audience had misunderstood, some had even walked out. Prabhupada's disciples could accept his anger. Then they even welcomed it theoretically, but to bear it was difficult. The spiritual master must cut through his student's false ego to engage that student in pure service. The Guru's show of anger, therefore, is good for the disciple. According to Chanakya Pandit, one should not be lenient with sons and disciples. Unless he deals strictly with them, he will spoil them. Prabhupada's anger in Vrindavan was not, however, a mere exercise in student training. He strongly desired to see the temple solidly established. He trusted that his disciples were sufficiently loyal to him to withstand the pain of chastisement and take it for what it was, mercy. Prabhupada was vigilant about the devotees' attendance at the morning devotional program at the temple. Calling for the temple president, he asked why some devotees were regularly absent. Mangalarti, he said, was very important and everyone must attend. Punctuality was also important. The exact time for the Mangalati would vary according to the clock, he said, but it must always be 1.5 hours before sunrise. Prabhupada would take his morning walk, timing it so he would be back in the temple a few moments before the deity doors were supposed to open for darshan. Once when he was waiting with all the devotees gathered around, he looked at his watch and then asked Akshayananda Swami, what is the time? Aware that Srila Prabhupada was speaking with exactitude, Akshayananda replied that it was 30 seconds after 7:30. Prabhupada shook his head and with a resigned look he said, it is very difficult to be a Brahmin 30 seconds late. Why are they taking so long to dress the deity? Akshayananda explained the deity dressing took about 1.5 hours. They are simply lazy, Prabhupada replied. How long should it take, Srila Prabhupada? Half an hour at most. Akshayananda was flabbergasted, since he knew of no pujari who could even come close to that. He remained silent. What is the difficulty? Prabhupada challenged. Half an hour at most. Shortly after Prabhupada arrived, he had noticed that the path leading to the front gate was not clean. He had complained thoroughly. Why this is not clean? It should be clean by the time daybreak comes. I want to see this cleaned. The temple commander, a young Englishman from Australia called Harisori, was supposed to supervise all the cleaning, but he had taken much of it for himself. After hearing Prabhupada's remarks about the pathway, Harisori had resolved to rectify the problem. Immediately after Mangalati, he would run out of the front temple, throw water on the stone pathways, and madly run the large squeegee over the front steps and walkway, so that by the time Prabhupada came by, most of the area would be sparkling clean. And by that time he would return from his walk, all outdoor walkways would be clean. Srila Prabhupada didn't say anything further about the walkway, which seemed to be a positive sign. Put in the wrong page. I just thought it was just this difference. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8, entitled The Character of Bharat Maharaj, text numbers 26. It's a very long, quite long verse. I'll just read go through the word for word and then translation purple. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Evam.
Evam.
In that way.
In that way.
Or maybe I won't go for the word for it to be extremely long. So just translation of purple. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, in this way Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life? How could he show such uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse, situated itself before him. Purple. As will be seen in later verses, Maharaj at the time of death would be forced to accept the body of a deer due to his attraction for the deer. In this regard, a question may be raised. How can a devotee be affected by his past misconduct or vicious activities? In Brahma Samhita 554, it is said, Kamani nirdahit, Kamani nirdahit hati kintu jet bhakti bhajan. For those engaged in devotional service, bhakti bhajan, the results of past deeds are indemnified. According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Maharaj Bharat purposely became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. To immediately rectify his mistake, for a short time he was awarded the body of a deer. This was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharat Maharaj was awarded the body of an animal, he did not forget what had previously happened due to his purposeful mistake. He was very anxious to get out of his dear body, and this indicates that his affection for devotional service was intensified, so much so that he was quickly to attain perfection in the Brahman body in the next life. It is with this conviction that we declare in our Bhakti Godhead magazine that devotees like Goswamis living in Vrindavan, who purposely commit some simple activity, are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus they take on these lower life forms for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is only for a short period, and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram. So Prabhupada's translation says how Sukadeva Goswami, he describes how Maharaj Bharat was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, and which is took form in his attraction to the deer, and his attachment to it. So in this way he put aside all of his austerities, worship of the Supreme Lord, and explains that it wasn't due to his past. It was due to his past fruitive activity, and how it's definitely due to his past karma. And being engrossed in to the deer, death came, and that was it. So, but Prabhupada, if we were just to read the verse, then it seems obvious what the situation is. Maharaj Bharat, he due to some conditioning or past karma, his attraction for a deer, he was overcome by the attraction of a deer, and thus he would take the deer body in his next life. But this is the value of having Prabhupada's purports, and he's following the tradition of the acharyas and how they made commentaries also on the Sastra. So, following in his footsteps, we are benedicted with his purports which enlighten us and on what's been said in the verses of the Sastra. So, so basically he's saying that all this is happening by the Lord's arrangement. Because there's you see, Prabhupada quotes here Brahma's Gita. It's also said in Bhagavad Gita, Savadana Purtaja, Namakam Chalanam Puja. So, Prabhupada Moksheshwara Yamanastucha. Let's see. So, here he says, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I will deliver you from all sinful actions, do not fear. Aham tam tvat samapabhebhyo mokshesha yami masuja. So he says, do not fear. And so that means that he didn't have any past karma to be absolved from. He was totally surrendered devotee of the Lord, having given up his kingdom, family, and so on. And in his worship, he came to the stage of bhava, which is just one step away from prema. And also at initiation, it said how one is absolved of one's past karma. It says how the example is there how when a fan is unplugged, still there's some motion of the fan, but it's just slowing down. So it can't be. It's all the explanation from Sastra is that this can't be from his past karma, and that the Lord is taking control. He was he did have a misuse of his free will in that he purposely became over addicted to a deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. And to immediately rectify his mistake, for a short time he was awarded the body of a deer. So he was awarded means that by the arrangement of Krishna, he was given the body of a deer to increase his desire for mature devotional service. So, and then he goes on to say how this worked, and that his affection for devotional service was intensified, and he wanted to. He was very much cautious in his next life in a Brahmin body to quickly attain perfection. So in this way he was rectified. So in the Bhagavad Gita, again in Apichetsudaracharo, one is the Lord doesn't forget his devotee. If he still continues, then in his devotional service, then he's to be considered saintly. So a devotee may have a deviation or sidestep the path, and be apparently entangled under the influence of material nature. But because he's he's surrendered to the Lord, then the Lord takes full charge to correct him, so that in his heart he's purified, and is experience some remorse for his past misdeeds, and the Lord quickly puts him back and makes arrangement that he's quickly put back on the path. So this is a warning for us, because because Prabhupada says how when the Lord carries what we lack and preserves what we have. So in this situation, he preserved the advancement of Maharaj Bharat, and took charge for him to quickly come back to his to continue where he left off. So our free will goes only as far as choosing the material energy, or choosing to be under influence, to choosing the material energy, or just or Krishna's energy, spiritual energy. So to choose the material energy means to be in ignorance, and to come under the influence of ignorance, and experience the temporary nature of life in the material world and the misery that comes with it. It's like part of the menu. Maya makes all arrangements for that ignorance and temporary nature and misery to take place. So by choosing Krishna, then we come under his spiritual potency, which then we experience the eternal nature, our eternal nature, how the bliss, ever-increasing bliss, and knowledge. So it seems obvious what choice we should make, but the Maya is so tricky and so expert that she can, just like Maharaj Bharat here, lure us by some cute little deer. And so some of us may have our pets and so on. So there's a warning here not to be overly attached, so that we become so concerned about the pets and so on, that we take the form of that, take that bodily form in our next life. Or anything, in fact, that we just see everything as a spiritual being in our care, so that we give it what we can to give it the means to progress, make its progression in its spiritual journey. Yeah, so we have to be so careful. And the warning is here that it just says how he was given the body of an animal and then, for a short time, and then came to a Brahman body. And Prabhupada says how devotees living in Vrindavan may, due to committing some sinful act, may take the bodies of dogs, monkeys and tortoises in that holy land. So to take the risk of taking another body Prabhupada is warning us here that not to do so, to keep our guard up. Otherwise, if you've seen how, for example, how dogs live in Vrindavan, they're very, very in a very, very kind of sorry state, or in Mayapur, especially. Anyway, they you see them that they don't look cute at all. They're straight. For a start, they're stray dogs, and you see they've had chunks taken out of them. They've got one eye, they're limping, and there is so much suffering. So to take the chance of entering that body, we're supposed to take the warning that to do all we can in this lifetime, so that we can be promoted to the spiritual world, or a planet where Krishna's having his pastimes. And his pastimes in the material world, eternal. It says how, as the sun sets in one country, it's rising in another country. So as Krishna's pastimes end on one planet in the material world, they start up again in another place in the material creation. So if we've perfected our Krishna consciousness to a point where we can become qualified to enter those pastimes, by doing so we receive training. Because it's not enough just to be Krishna conscious. We have to have training so that we can know how to act and behave and so on amongst those Krishna's associates, personal associates in the spiritual world. So training is necessary. And for that, maybe a few lifetimes are necessary. Depends on us. I've heard how, because there's training in the deity department, if one's trained as Pujari and perfects that, then one can go straight to the spiritual world. So the message here is one of the messages here is to learn by hearing, and with faith and all seriousness, how to utilize every moment in Krishna's service. Manmana Bhagavan Bhakta, to always remember Krishna, never forget him. That's the basic principle of devotional service, the essential principle of devotional service, and how all other instructions serve this one principle. So when we read, we should here it should be with a view to how to increase our remembrance of the Lord in any situation. To not be deviated by our emotions or circumstances that put us in a self-conscious mode. So to the degree that we are Krishna conscious, to that degree Krishna takes care. So it's up to us to have that independence. And proper use of that independence is to try and, by all means, remember the Lord in all circumstances, to perform our services in such a way that will please Him, that we have no ulterior motive or think that we have a better engagement under the prescribed duties that have been given. So we can think ourselves so far away from this, but just that it takes constant reminders, and by Sri Prabhupada's mercy in these books and from association, in the form of the holy name, in the form of being in an environment which is conducive for that, having one's own, if not in the temple, having one's own sacred space that one goes to every day. This kind of nurtures our devotional creeper. It says how if we have a cup of ink and if in an inky atmosphere, one can displace that ink with milk by pouring milk, and if you keep pouring, then the ink will be displaced. But once we stop, because the ink is in an inky atmosphere, then it will become contaminated again. So we need a constant pouring of Krishna consciousness through our ears, and for that sound vibration to travel to our hearts, so that we can in this way take it to heart and take it seriously and meditate on it, and think of ways how we can put it into practice. And in this way we become eligible to get the gift of understanding, the gift of intelligence, to become fully realized in our practice, in our Krishna consciousness. So it has to go very, very deep. It can't be superficial. And otherwise, if it is superficial, then it could be easily lost. And so we should be satisfied by that. But to really apply ourselves, to be really really concentrate to really focus on the holy name, being none different than Krishna, to know that he's non-different from Krishna, that we shouldn't be inattentive, and in this way not being attentive to the ways that the arrangement that Krishna continuously makes for us to come closer to Him. That's His reciprocation. So by embracing those arrangements, however, whether they come in the form of a sweet ball or a chili, to take advantage of these situations because they carry lessons behind them, or they carry ways by which we can find it easier to relinquish that which is a block between us and Krishna, in the form of conditioning, in the form of conceptions that we hold on to, which maybe a superficial understanding. So he's trying to give us ways that open doors for us to enter deep into our awareness of our spiritual identity and our place in this world, what we need to do to progress forward. So this is also an example of how, even though Bharat Maharaj gave up his practices, he wasn't forgotten by the Lord. So it says how if one takes one step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards us. So not forgetting his devotee and how much service he's already given, then the Lord eagerly comes to save him and his advancement. But then he does so in such a way that may cause a lot of pain, because he's living in an animal body. Isn't much fun. So yeah, there's when Vyasadeva, he wasn't satisfied with what he did as in his service, and his reaction was to go to his spiritual master. Bharat Maharaj doesn't seem to be doing this, but still Krishna is giving him some protect his advancement. So, but with Vyasadeva, he went to his spiritual master, and who told him that he wasn't describing the pastimes of Krishna. So he took that to heart, and everything became revealed within his heart. He was an literary incarnation of the Lord. So, but still, the example is there for us to really take to heart the instructions of the spiritual master, to whichever way we can, to deliberate on that instruction, and Krishna will give the means by which we can fulfill the desire of the spiritual master and put his instructions into practice. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point that Prabhupada explains, that there was that Maharaj Bharat purposely did it. So purposely means there was some desire that he had, and he wasn't vigilant or careful enough of actually deal with it or let it go or replace it or work it out. He's just allowed it to kind of manifest it. So in one sense he kind of didn't pass kind of that test, and
Sorry?
he kind of didn't pass that test, and it can, and it does happen in a smaller or a bigger way. As you can see, it says that in Brahma Samhita and other places that when if one is fully engaged in devotional service, one should not be affected by one's past karma, activities and etc. So that means if there is some sort of fall down on a smaller or a bigger way, there is some desire somewhere there that one allows to kind of, doesn't deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's a good point that you were saying, about constantly hearing and actually reviewing where we are going, what is our purpose, what is the destination, and what are the obstacles, what is the thing that is favorable and what is unfavorable. It's kind of important to be introspective.
Yeah, I was heard one devotee's had a nice way of putting it, how every Bhagavatam class should be a reset for the mind, and to put us back on the straight and narrow, and so that we don't get carried away. Says one verse in the Bhagavad Gita says even one of the Roman senses can take away the mind of an intelligent person who's trying to control them. So all the warnings are there that it's not just a plain sailing, or that we can't just cruise through devotional service and think we'll end up at the pearly gates at the end of it. There used to be a saying, cruising leads to a bruising. And as I was saying, if we have minimal, minute independence, if we misuse it, that could be us gone for a few lifetimes. It depends on how, if we're able to come back on the path by Krishna's mercy and our desire. Because as long as we're in this mature world, we're under the laws of nature, and Krishna uses that field, that environment to bring us back. So it's just how cautious we should be, basically. Come to a point where we're like Haridas Thakur, who was completely Krishna conscious in all times, that even Maya Devi herself came to lure him, and she was unsuccessful. So we have the mercy of the Holy Name given by Lord Chaitanya, and by taking part in this Sankirtan, us to fully engage our senses, and the senses of Lord, and it's only a matter of time before we become eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. Just to stay in the path. So the more fully we are engaged in Krishna's service with mind, body and words, then to that degree Krishna takes care of all our necessities, even like our desires for affection and so on. All these are fully satisfied in the service of the Lord. We just have to trust that He will do that, that He has, it may be some austerity there, but that's how faithful we should be, that Krishna will take care. It's not that we need to make our own arrangements. And this is the mood of the sannyasi. So in this way the process is very simple. You just have to think of Krishna and never forget him. There may be difficulties on the way, but they're all there to teach us how to become more to increase our Krishna consciousness and reveal what's getting in the way. So how to address that. So let's stop there. Thank you for your attention. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
His Grace Vrinda Mataji ki jai.